The ocean, vast, mysterious, and for many, terrifying. Imagine a world where the oceans aren't just vast and deep, but teeming with creatures beyond your wildest nightmares. Welcome to Earth 500 million years ago. For those with thalassophobia, the intense fear of deep bodies of water, today's oceans can be terrifying enough. But the prehistoric seas, they were an entirely different level of horror. Join us as we dive into the murky depths of Earth's past and uncover the monsters that once ruled our planet's ocean. Creatures that might just explain why so many of us still feel a primal fear when we look out at the sea. But before we plunge into the terrors of the past, let's understand why for millions of people even this serene scene can trigger intense anxiety. Thalassophobia is more than just a dislike of water. It's an intense fear, often debilitating fear of deep bodies of water, especially the ocean. Symptoms can range from mild discomfort to full-blown panic attacks. Sweating, rapid heartbeat, difficulty breathing, all can be triggered by merely seeing or thinking about deep water. It's not just about drowning, it's what might be down there. The darkness, the unknown. I can shake the feeling that something's waiting to grab me. Mark's fears might seem irrational in our modern world, but wind back the clock a few 100 million years and his instinct wouldn't be far off. The oceans of Earth's past were home to creatures that would make today's great white sharks look like goldfish. Massive predators armed with teeth the size of bananas patrolled waters teeming with monstrous life. It's fascinating to consider how our ancestors' experiences might have shaped our modern fears. The ocean has been a source of both sustenance and danger throughout human history. Indeed, across cultures, we find common thread of respect and fear for the sea. From the Kraken of Norse mythology to the sea serpents of Chinese legend, humans have long populated the oceans with the terrifying creatures in our stories and art. Today, our fears manifest in different ways. For some, it's our reluctance to swim in open water. For others, it's anxiety triggered by photographs of deep-sea creatures or even large aquariums. Even though I know it's safe standing next to that huge tank, I can feel my heart racing. It's like my body is screaming at me to run. But why do we react this way? Is it learned behavior or something deeper, more primal? To answer that question, we need to journey back in time, back to when the oceans were truly a place of nightmares, back to the beginning. Our story begins over 4 billion years ago as the young Earth cooled and the first oceans formed. These primordial seas were nothing like the waters we know today. The early oceans were hot, acidic, and loaded with minerals. It was a chemical soup that would be lethal to most modern life forms, but it was in this hostile environment that life on Earth began. For nearly 3 billion years, life in the oceans was microscopic, but then something extraordinary happened. In a geological blink of an eye, the oceans exploded with complex life. We call this the Cambrian explosion, and it set the stage for the reign of the marine monsters that would dominate Earth's ocean for hundreds of millions of years. As we stand here on the shore, looking out at the peaceful waves, it's hard to imagine the terrors that once lurked beneath the surface. But as we'll see, the creatures that once ruled these waters make our darkest fears look tame in comparison. Up next, we'll meet one of the most fearsome predators of the ancient seas, a creature that would give even the bravest deep-sea diver nightmares. Stay with us as we encounter the Dunkleosteus. Welcome back to Depths of Dread. We're about to meet one of the most terrifying predators ever to swim the Earth's ocean. Meet Dunkleosteus, the titan of the Devonian Sea. Dunkleosteus was an apex predator that lived about 380 million years ago. Imagine a fish the size of a great white shark but with a head encased in thick, bony armor and jaws that could snap shut with the force of a hydraulic press. Add up to the 20 feet long and weighing up to a ton, Dunkleosteus was the stuff of nightmares. But what made it truly terrifying were its jaws. Instead of teeth, Dunkleosteus had sharp, bony plates that formed a beak-like structure. These plates were self-sharpening and could exert a bite force of over 8,000 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, that's about 5 times stronger than the bite of a modern-day saltwater crocodile. With this incredible bite force, Dunkleosteus could easily slice through the armor of other fish and even crush bones. It was the apex predator of its time, feared by all other marine life. For those with thalassophobia, the idea of encountering such a creature is the stuff of nightmares. But how does Dunkleosteus compare to modern-day fears? In many ways, Dunkleosteus occupied a similar ecological niche to today's great white sharks. Both were apex predators that inspired fear in other marine life. When I think about creatures like that lurking in the depths, it's no wonder I'm terrified of deep water. Even though I know they're extinct, part of me can't shake the fear that something like that might still be down there. Mark's fear, while focused on an extinct creature, taps into a very real and primal human instinct. Our brains are wired to be cautious of potential threats, especially those we can't see clearly. The ocean's vastness and opacity trigger this instinct, and learning about creatures like Dunkleosteus can reinforce these fears. But Dunkleosteus wasn't just a mindless killing machine, it played a crucial role in its ecosystem. As an apex predator, Dunkleosteus helped maintain balance in the Devonian seas. It controlled the populations of other large predators, preventing any one species from becoming too dominant. However, like many apex predators, Dunkleosteus was vulnerable to change in its environment. At the end of the Devonian period, about 360 million years ago, a mass extinction event wiped out many marine species, including Dunkleosteus. The exact cause of this extinction is still debated, but it likely involved rapid climate change and ocean anoxia, a severe depletion of oxygen in the water. While Dunkleosteus is long gone, its legacy lives on in the primal fears many of us feel when we look out at the open ocean. But as terrifying as Dunkleosteus was, it was just one of many monstrous creatures that once ruled the seas, and some of its successors would grow to even more nightmarish proportions. Coming up, we'll dive into the world of prehistoric sharks, including the largest predatory fish ever to exist, a creature that makes Dunkleosteus look like a small fry. Let's stay with us as we meet Megalodon. Now, we're about to meet a predator that would make even Dunkleosteus seem small. Sharks, for many, they embody our deepest fears of the ocean, but the prehistoric seas were home to sharks that dwarf anything swimming in our oceans today. When we think of prehistoric sharks, one name stands out above all others: Megalodon. Megalodon was the largest predatory fish ever to exist. At up to 60 feet long, it was roughly 3 times the size of the largest great white sharks alive today. But it wasn't just Megalodon's size that made it terrifying. Its jaws could open wide enough to swallow a small whale whole. and its teeth were serrated blades nearly the size of an adult human hand. Megalodon's preferred prey were the early whales that shared its waters. Imagine a predator so large and powerful that it could hunt the ancestor of blue whales. For those with thalassophobia, the idea of such a massive predator is almost unthinkable. Just the thought of something that big in the water, it makes my skin crawl. I know they're extinct, but part of me wonders if there could be something like that still out here there in the deep ocean and where we can't see. It's a common fear, but we can say with certainty that Megalodon is extinct. It disappeared about 3.6 million years ago, likely due to cooling oceans and changes in its prey populations. But Megalodon wasn't the only terrifying shark to swim the prehistoric seas. The helicorpion, with its bizarre spiral shaped jaw, the Thalassophobia, with a strange anvil-shaped fin on its back, the Xenacanthus, a freshwater shark with a long spine protruding. Each of these ancient sharks was a nightmarish predator in its own right. The diversity and strangeness of these prehistoric sharks tap into our fear of the unknown. They remind us that the oceans once held and perhaps still hold creatures beyond our imagination. But why did sharks become such successful predators, and how have they managed to survive for over 450 million years? Outstanding, even the dinosaurs. Sharks are incredibly well adapted to their environment. Their streamlined bodies, powerful sensory organs, and constantly replacing teeth make them nearly perfect predators. And while modern sharks are smaller than their prehistoric counterparts, they're no less fascinating or fearsome. From the great white to the goblin shark, modern oceans are home to over 500 species of sharks. Each is a living reminder of the ancient predators that once. Even these smaller modern sharks can trigger intense fear, but understanding these creatures might be the key to overcoming that fear. Sharks play a crucial role in maintaining healthy ocean ecosystems. They are not mindless killing machines, but sophisticated predators that have more to fear from us than we do from them. As we stand here on the shore, it's hard to imagine the massive predators that once swam these waters. Megalodon and its kin are long gone, but their legacy lives on in our collective imagination and in the genes of their modern descendants. But sharks weren't the only terrors lurking in the prehistoric seas. Coming up, we'll meet the reptilian monster that gave rise to legends of sea serpents and lake monsters. Stay with us as we dive into the world of the marine reptiles. Welcome back to Depths of Dread. We explored the range of prehistoric sharks, but now we turn our attention to a group of creatures that seem to blur the line between fact and fiction. Marine reptiles. For millions of years, these creatures dominated the world's oceans, giving rise to legends that persist to this day. When we talk about marine reptiles, we're referring to three main groups: ichthyosaurs, plesiosaurs, and mosasaurs. Each of these groups evolved independently to live the oceans, and each developed unique adaptations that made them formidable predators. Imagine creatures that combined the sleek bodies of dolphins and the long necks of giraffes and the powerful jaws of crocodiles. These were the dragons of the deep, and they ruled the oceans for over 180 million years. Ichthyosaurs were among the first to appear. They looked remarkably like modern dolphins, a perfect example of convergent evolution, but don't be fooled. Some species grew over 70 feet long. But perhaps the most iconic of the marine reptiles were the plesiosaurs. With their long necks and paddle-like limbs, they're often cited as a possible explanation for the Loch Ness monster and other lake creatures of legends. People have been seeing something strange in these waters for centuries. Who's to say it's not some ancient beastie that survived all this time? While it's virtually impossible for a plesiosaur to have survived to modern times, it's fascinating how these prehistoric creatures continue to capture our imagination. But the most fearsome of the marine reptiles may have been the mosasaurs. Imagine a Komodo dragon the size of a bus adapted for life in the open ocean. Mosasaurs were the apex predators. They had double-hinged jaws that allowed them to swallow prey whole, and some species grew up to 50 feet long. They were the T-Rex of the seas. For those with thalassophobia, the idea of such massive reptiles lurking beneath the waves is truly terrifying. It's not just the size that's scary, it's the idea that something so alien, so reptilian could be down there. The least sharks and are fish, but these things, they're like sea monsters come to life. The fear of reptiles, the herpetophobia, it's quite common. Combine that with the fear of deep water and marine reptiles become a perfect storm of phobic triggers. But like all apex predators, marine reptiles played a crucial role in their ecosystems. These animals helped maintain the balance of prehistoric oceans. They controlled populations of smaller predators and prey species, shaping the evolution of marine life for millions of years. However, the rise of marine reptiles came to a dramatic end 66 million years ago. During the same extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs, a massive asteroid impact led to global climate change. The oceans were particularly hard hit, and most large marine reptiles couldn't adapt quickly enough to survive. While the giant marine reptiles are long gone, their legacy lives on, not just in our imaginations and folklore, but in the modern animals that have taken their place. Today's whales, seals, and sea turtles fill many of the ecological niches once occupied by marine reptiles. They're a living reminder of the incredible adaptability of life on Earth. As we look out at the ocean, it's hard not to wonder what other secrets it might hold. The story of marine reptiles reminds us that the history of life on Earth is full of incredible twists and turns. But our journey through the terrors of the prehistoric seas is far from over. Coming up, we'll explore creatures that have inspired myths and legends for thousands of years. Join us as we uncover the truth behind the real-life krakens. The kraken, for centuries, tales of giant, ship-sinking cephalopods have terrified sailors and fascinated landlubbers, but how much truth lies beneath these legends? What the Kraken of legend is clearly exaggerated. It's based on very real creatures, giant and colossal squids. And when we look to the prehistoric oceans, we find cephalopods, the rival even our wildest imaginations. The ancient seas were home to a variety of enormous cephalopods, an ancestor to today's squids, octopuses, and nautiluses. Now, one of the most impressive was Camaracaris, an orthocon that lived about 470 billion years ago. Some estimates suggest it could have grown up to 30 feet long. For comparison, that's about twice the length of a great white shark. Another formidable predator was Thalassophobia, a squid-like creature from the Cretaceous period. It's estimated to have been about 35 feet long, including its tentacles. Even today, the idea of giant cephalopods continues to captivate and terrify. I've been sailing these waters for 50 years and I've seen things you wouldn't believe. There are monsters in the deep, mark my words. While we haven't found evidence of cephalopods quite as large as the legendary Kraken, modern giant and colossal squids are still incredibly impressive and elusive. Giant squids can grow up to 43 feet long and live in the deep ocean. They were only first filmed in their natural habitat in 2004, adding to their mysterious allure. The idea of tentacled creatures lurking in the depths that taps into some of our deepest fears. The way they move, their apparent intelligence, and their ability to grab and constrict prey trigger primal responses within many people. Tentacles just freak me out. The idea of something wrapping around me in the water, it's like my worst nightmare. But cephalopods, both ancient and modern, are more than just movie monsters. They're most intelligent invertebrates on the planet, with complex behaviors and remarkable problem-solving abilities. Cephalopods have been around for over 500 million years. They've survived multiple mass extinctions and continue to thrive today. Their adaptability and intelligence are truly remarkable. Modern cephalopods continue to surprise us with their intelligence. Octopuses have been observed using tools, solving complex puzzles, and even escaping from aquariums. While the giant cephalopods of prehistory are long gone, their modern descendants continue to inspire both fear and fascination. The next time you look out at the ocean, remember there may indeed be tentacled intelligence looking back. But our journey through the terrors of the deeps is not yet complete. Up next, we'll explore creatures that blur the line between land and sea, predators that could strike from both water and shore. Stay with us as we uncover the truth about prehistoric crocodilians. Welcome back to Depths of Dread. We have explored the mysteries of ancient cephalopods, but now we turn our attention to a group of predators that dominated both land and sea. Prehistoric crocodilians. Imagine creatures combining the ferocity of modern crocodiles with the size of buses and the adaptability to rule both aquatic and terrestrial environments. When we think of crocodiles today, we picture animals confined mostly to freshwater environments, but their ancient relatives were far more diverse and, in many cases, far more terrifying. The world of prehistoric crocodilians was one of extremes, from giants and dwarfed today's saltwater crocodiles to bizarre species adapted for life in the ocean. One of the most impressive was Sarcosuchus, often called super croc. Living about 110 million years ago, it could grow up to 40 feet long and weigh up to 8 tons. For comparison, that's about the weight of a full-grown male elephant. Another terrifying species was Deinosuchus, which lived alongside some dinosaurs. It was large enough to prey on medium-sized dinosaurs that came on the water's edge. For those with thalassophobia, the idea of such massive predators lurking just beneath the surface is particularly terrifying. Crocodiles already freak me out. The way they can just sit there almost invisible then strike, but imagining one the size of a bus, that's just... I can't even think about it. What's fascinating is that not all prehistoric crocodilians were giant. Ambush predators, some species like Metriorhynchus, were fully adapted to marine life, with flippers and a tail fin. These marine crocodiles filled ecological niches similar to modern dolphins or small whales, hunting fish and squid in the open ocean. The fear of crocodiles and alligators is deeply ingrained in many cultures. They represent a perfect storm of phobic triggers, the ability to hide in water, powerful jaws, and a reputation as man-eaters. But like all apex predators, prehistoric crocodilians played a crucial role in the ecosystems. These animals were important in controlling populations of other species, including dinosaurs. They helped shape the evolution of many prey species. While many prehistoric crocodilian species went extinct along with the dinosaurs, some lineages survived and gave rise to the crocodiles and alligators we know today. Modern crocodilians are living fossils in many ways. They've changed remarkably little in the last 80 million years. The largest modern species, the saltwater crocodiles, can still grow up to 23 feet long. As we look at these modern rivers and coastlines, it's hard not to imagine the massive predators that once ruled these environments. The legacy of prehistoric crocodilians lives on in their modern descendants and in our primal fears of what might be lurking just beneath the surface. But our journey through the terrors of prehistoric waters isn't over yet. Up next, we'll explore a different kind of horror, one that's invisible to the naked eye, but no less deadly. Join us as we uncover the microscopic terrors of ancient seas. Welcome back to Depths of Dread. We've explored the massive predators that once ruled the seas, but now we turn our attention to a different kind of terror, one that's invisible to the naked eye. The microscopic world of prehistoric oceans was a realm of unimaginable horrors, filled with parasites, bacteria, and other invisible threats that could be just as deadly as any giant predator. When we think of prehistoric oceans, we often focus on the large, visible creatures, but the true dominators of these ancient seas were microorganisms. They shaped the chemistry of the oceans and the course of evolution itself. The ancient seas were teeming with life forms beyond our nightmares, parasites that could control the behavior of their hosts, bacteria that could survive in the most extreme conditions, and viruses that could decimate entire species. Take, for example, this prehistoric parasite we found fossilized evidence of. It appears to have infected the brains of its fish hosts, potentially altering their behavior to make them easier prey for larger predators. It's a chilling reminder that nature's horrors aren't always big and toothy. For those with thalassophobia, the idea of invisible threats in the water can be just as terrifying as any shark or crocodile. It's not just the big things that scare me, it's the idea that there could be something in the water that I can't even see, but that could make me sick or worse. It's like the water itself becomes threatening. What's fascinating is that many of these prehistoric microorganisms have modern descendants that the ocean is still full of microscopic life, some of which can be harmful to humans. For harmful algal blooms that can make shellfish toxic, to flesh-eating bacteria that can enter through the tiniest cut, our modern oceans still harbor microscopic dangers. The fear of invisible contaminants in water is a common aspect of thalassophobia. It taps into our fear of the unknown and our instinctive aversion to potential sources of disease. But these microscopic organisms weren't just agents of disease and death. They played crucial roles in shaping life as we know it. Microorganisms were responsible for oxygenating Earth's early atmosphere, making complex life possible. They've been the primary drivers of nutrient cycling in the oceans for billions of years. In fact, all complex life, including humans, evolved from these microscopic ancestors. We owe our existence to the very creatures that might horrify us. As we look out at the seemingly clean, clear waters of our oceans and lakes, it's important to remember that invisible worlds teeming beneath the surface, a world that connects us directly to the most ancient forms of life of our planet. But our journey through the horrors of prehistoric seas is nearing its end. In our final segment, we'll explore how these ancient terrors would have shaped our modern world and our relationship with the oceans. Stay with us as we uncover the legacy of prehistoric seas. Welcome back to the final segment of Depths of Dread. We've journeyed through time, exploring the monstrous creatures and microscopic terrors that once ruled Earth's prehistoric seas. Now we ask ourselves, what is the legacy of these ancient oceans? To understand how prehistoric oceans have shaped our world, we need to look at their impact on both our planet and our psyche. The prehistoric oceans laid the foundation for the marine ecosystems we see today. Every creature, from the smallest plankton to the largest whale, has been shaped by millions of years of evolution and extinction events. The massive predators of the past may be gone, but their ecological roles have been filled by new species. Great white sharks, orcas, and giant squid are the inheritors of a predatory legacy stretching back hundreds of millions of years. From psychological perspective, our fear of the ocean, Thalassophobia, might be seen as an evolutionary hangover from a time when seas were even more dangerous than they are today. Yet despite these primal fears, humans have always been drawn to the ocean. We've built civilizations along coastlines, harvested fruit from the seas, and used oceans as highways connecting distant lands. Studying prehistoric oceans gives us crucial insights into the climate change and extinction events. The oceans have undergone dramatic changes in the past, and understanding these changes helps us predict and potentially mitigate future environmental shifts. Today, our oceans face new threats: pollution, overfishing, and climate change. The legacy of prehistoric seas reminds us of the ocean's resilience, but also its vulnerability. The ocean has survived multiple mass extinctions, but the rate of change we're seeing now is unprecedented. We have responsibility to protect these ecosystems that have existed in some form for billions of years. For those with thalassophobia, understanding the long history of life in the oceans can be both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Learning about all these prehistoric creatures hasn't exactly cured my fear, but it's given me a new perspective. The ocean is scary, yeah, but it's also amazing. I still struggle with my fear, but knowing more about the history of the oceans has helped. It's like the fear is still there, but now there's wonder too. As we conclude our journey through the depths of prehistoric dread, we're left with a profound appreciation for the ocean's role in Earth's history and our own evolution. The story of life on Earth is in many ways the story of life in the oceans. From the first single-celled organisms to the complex ecosystems we see today, the ocean has been the stage for life's greatest dramas. The terrors of the prehistoric seas, the giant predators, the strange creatures, the microscopic horrors have all played their part in shaping our world and our relationship with the oceans. As we look out at the seas today, we're looking at the latest chapter in a story, billions of years in the making, a story of survival, adaptation, and the endless cycle of life and death that continues beneath their waves. The prehistoric oceans may be gone, but their legacy lives on in the creatures that inhabit today's seas, in the fossil record that tells their story, and in the deepest parts of our own psyche. The ocean, in all its terror and beauty, remains Earth's greatest frontier and its most ancient mystery. Hit that subscribe button now and press on the video now popping on your screen. I'm sure you will love it. Don't forget to leave a like on this video and see you there.